I still think that if I had paused for just a moment while climbing those stairs that evening, perhaps none of this would have happened. But some things are not revealed to a person before their time. The steps we take thinking they are ordinary are the ones that change the direction of life. My name is *Zishan***, and this incident took place in 2010. It was a time when our entire family lived in a narrow but bustling lane in Karachi. On both sides of the lane were rows of houses attached to one another. The roofs were almost level. The main gate was made of iron and would always creak slightly at night. The sounds of children playing in the street could often be heard until after sunset. The neighbors all knew each other. It was that typical Pakistani neighborhood with its quarrels and its kindnesses. We were 7 siblings. 2 sisters older than me were already settled in their own homes. I was the eldest among the brothers. The remaining 3 were younger. The house was full of noise, life, and mixed commotion. I was married to Samina ***. She was a very straightforward, soft-spoken girl. There was always a strange peace in her eyes. I came to appreciate that peace later. We had 5 children, 3 sons and 2 daughters. The house was large, but the family was also large. As the children grew, the house truly began to feel cramped. I always thought about taking a separate house on rent, but finding a good place within the budget was not easy. At that time, I was a supervisor at a company's warehouse. I would leave home at 7 a.m. and not return before 6 p.m. For several days, I had been searching for a suitable house. I had mentioned this at the office as well. One day, *Faison* said to me, "Zishan Bhai, you were saying you are looking for a house. There is a house available, quite good. The rent is reasonable too, and the best part is that it's in your own colony on the 3rd lane." At first I felt happy, at least I would be saved from the daily commute hassle. I told him, "Take me there this evening, call the owner as well." He agreed. The rest of that day I spent in that thought. Work happened, but my mind kept drifting toward the house every now and then. Some things a person decides in their heart without any reason. I didn't have any particular hope for this house, but I don't know why my heart was saying perhaps this house was going to be ours. In the evening I came home and told my brother Wasim that we had to go see a house. He said okay. After the evening prayer we left on the motorcycle. The streets had the usual evening traffic. Children were playing. Shopkeepers were preparing to close their shops. From somewhere came the smell of curry, from somewhere the smell of smoke. Perhaps someone was cooking kebabs on coals. We reached the 3rd lane and asked 1 or 2 people. They pointed toward a house ahead. An elderly man said, "This is the one. It has been vacated for rent." The gate was made of iron, a little faded. There were 2 bulbs above, of which only one was lit. I raised my hand and knocked. A little time passed. Then the sound of light footsteps came from inside. The gate opened. A middle-aged man stood there, clean clothes, a slightly serious face. I greeted him. "Brother Faison said we could come see the house." He said, "Yes, come in." We entered. The house was truly beautiful. In front was a large lawn with cut grass. A pipe lay on one side as if someone had watered in the morning. He opened the door and took us first to the drawing room. Tiles were clean, walls freshly painted. Then he showed us the bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, a nice kitchen, and best of all, the stairs leading to the roof. The upstairs room was a little different. As soon as I entered, a strange peace was felt. The window curtains were gently waving in the air. The light inside was low, but everything looked fine. The roof had tiles laid neatly. I looked at Wasim. "It's fine," he said. "Much better than what we're getting it for." After about an hour of conversation, the owner agreed to the rent. He kept telling us that the house was ready to live in, electricity was working, water was coming, and he had just got it cleaned yesterday. It seemed true. The house really felt freshly cleaned. We returned home. That night we discussed and decided that we wouldn't shift immediately. After a month or 2, it would be more convenient because we had to buy quite a bit of furniture and items. From the next day, we got busy with shopping: beds, sofas, carpets, kitchen items, small tasks. Money was also being spent, but there was happiness in the heart that finally we would also have our own proper house. Then came the day when we completely shifted into the new house. The first month passed happily. The freshness of the house, the excitement of the new place, everything felt good. Then slowly life returned to its routine. I went to the office in the morning, Samina handled the housework, children went to school. At night sometimes we went to my father's house, sometimes they came here. Everything was completely ordinary. And then, in the midst of this ordinary routine, a turning point came that changed our entire lives. Sometimes a silence spreads in the house that is not ordinary silence. It does not make a sound. It just makes itself felt around you, as if something invisible moves lightly inside you, and you yourself cannot tell whether it was really something or just a thought. The new house no longer felt so new. A month had passed and life had returned to its true colors. The hustle of the city, the voices of children, small quarrels, and the fatigue after dinner, everything was ordinary, so ordinary that a person becomes carefree. That day too, my morning was just like any other. I woke up at the time of the morning prayer. Outside, a faint darkness still remained. The call to prayer was coming from the neighborhood mosque, that familiar voice that softens the heart every day. Samina was also awake. She softly asked, "Should I make tea?" I nodded yes. The light fragrance of tea slowly spread through the whole house. The children were also getting ready for breakfast. Everything was ordinary, completely ordinary. Before leaving for the office, I checked the children's bags. One had lost a notebook, another's water bottle had been left in the kitchen. All those small things in which the real life of a house is hidden. Then I went to the office. On the way, passing through the third lane of the colony, for a moment I saw the upstairs room. The curtains in the window were gently moving as if there was wind inside. I didn't pay any attention. Wind blows everywhere. The day at the office passed as usual. In the afternoon, I felt a little lazy. By evening, I was tired. When I returned home in the evening, the children's voices could be heard. They were sitting and playing in the lawn. Samina was in the kitchen. The wind was very light. There was a strange peace in the evening, the kind that forces a person to sit down. I dragged a chair and sat in a corner of the lawn. Tea was placed in front of me. I was just taking slow sips. Then, for the first time, something strange happened. Samina had gone upstairs for some work. We had specially kept that room for the washing machine because the roof was excellent for drying clothes. I sat in the lawn talking to the children. The evening was growing darker. About 10 minutes later, Samina came down. Her face was a little changed. Her breathing was also a little faster than usual. I asked, "What happened?" She paused for a moment, as if she herself was thinking whether she should say it or not. Then she said softly, "When I went upstairs, the door of the room seemed to be open, and I felt as if someone was already present there." I didn't understand what she was trying to say. I asked, "Did you see someone?" She immediately said, "No, I didn't see anyone. It just felt as if someone was standing there, as if someone was breathing inside. But I couldn't see anything." I laughed lightly and said, "Samina, it's an illusion. You must be tired. How would anyone be there? I had closed the door myself in the morning." She also perhaps didn't believe herself because she immediately nodded and said, "Yes, perhaps it was just a feeling." She went into the kitchen and the matter ended there. But that was not the real thing. The real thing was that even after she said it, I kept trying to consider the matter completely normal. But somewhere in my heart, a faint needle had pricked, because Samina never had such illusions. Never. But I convinced myself that perhaps the house was new, the environment was new, such things happen. But then in the next few days, that feeling kept coming back. One afternoon, Samina went upstairs to get the children's clothes. Coming down, she said softly, "Zishan, today when I went inside, I felt as if something had shifted slightly in the room. Very lightly, as if something had rubbed against the floor." I said again, "Samina, it's all an illusion. The wind blows a lot in the house." She accepted it, or perhaps just became quiet. One night, around 11 p.m., I felt as if the door of the upstairs room had creaked slightly and then stopped. I dismissed the thought. There was complete silence in the whole house, the kind of silence that makes you feel as if the wind itself is holding its breath. But at that time, I didn't think for a moment that all of this was the beginning of something bigger. And then came the night that first gave birth to real fear in my heart. Some nights are such that even the wind does not blow in the usual way. The pace of breathing changes. The heartbeat begins to say something beyond the ordinary, and the person themselves cannot understand whether they are going up or whether some force has called them up. That night was strangely heavy. There was the fatigue of the whole day, but that night the fatigue was not settling on the body, it was stuck somewhere inside. After dinner I was sitting in my room. The children had gone to sleep. Samina came out after washing the dishes and said, "Are you okay? You seem a little lost today." I just shook my head lightly. Yes, just tired. But the truth was that throughout the day I had felt something several times, as if a faint, low, incomprehensible sound was coming from the direction of the upstairs room, as if a whisper was moving inside closed walls. I had dismissed these sounds as the wind, but since evening, a strange lump had settled in my heart. I lay on the bed, but sleep would not come. My breathing was a little heavy, an unnamed pressure in my chest. A few minutes later I sat up. The day had been filled with crowds, but at that moment the whole house was so silent that even my own breath could be heard. I thought to myself that perhaps some fresh air would help. I put on my slippers and slowly opened the door. A dim light was spread throughout the house, as if everything was sleeping. I walked toward the stairs. Each step slid slowly, as if I was not walking myself. The stairs going up were not long, but that night they seemed strangely long, as if each step was slowly gripping my heart. The first step, silence. The second step, a faint sound from the direction of the room. I stopped, listened, then told myself it was probably an illusion. The third step, my heart beat a little faster. As I went up, the moisture in the air increased. When I reached near the roof, my steps slowed down on their own. I reached the roof and paused for a moment. The whole neighborhood was asleep. The sky above was black, filled with clouds. Then that wind I heard for the first time clearly, completely clearly, the muttering of a human. That voice was very faint. Broken words, incoherent, as if a very tired person was talking to himself. At first, I told myself that the sound was coming from the neighboring house. I took a few steps and listened in the direction of the sound. It was coming from one direction, exactly from behind the door of that same room where the washing machine was kept. My hands began to sweat on their own. I slowly told myself, "Don't be crazy, this is nothing. It must be an animal or something fell because of the wind." But as I got a few steps closer, the voice became clearer. It was a human voice, not male, not female, just a strange, muffled sound, as if someone was forgetting their own name in deep breaths. I stood there for a full 10 minutes. My heart was not beating loudly, it was not beating at all, as if it had stopped. I kept thinking, should I open the door or should I go back downstairs? But I felt that if I went down now, that voice would perhaps come back louder someday, at some other time in some other condition. I gathered my courage. I took a small step. I reached near the door, and as soon as I got close, the voice stopped abruptly. Such silence fell that I could hear my own pulse. My hand involuntarily touched the door. The door was cold, so cold that it felt as if someone had filled the whole room with ice. I pushed the door open very, very slowly. It creaked and moved back. I peeked inside. A faint evening light was falling in the room from the roof railing. The room was completely silent. Then my eyes fell ahead. On a chair placed against the opposite wall, a woman was sitting, long hair falling over her face. Her head was bowed. Her hands were placed on her knees, completely still like a statue, like an old photograph, as if she had been sitting there for a very long time. The ground seemed to slip from under my feet. My breath got stuck inside. My body froze like ice right there. She was not moving, no sound of breathing, no movement of clothes, nothing. Only one thing, her presence. A presence that grips a person's heart and holds it tight. My hands began to tremble. I tried to turn around, but it was as if someone had placed weight on my feet. Even the wind had stopped. The whole room seemed to be looking at me, not just that woman, the whole room. I took one step back with courage, then another, but every step was as if I was emerging from a swamp. Somehow, I reached the door and then, without looking back, just ran down the stairs. When I reached downstairs, my breath was shattered. My hands were trembling. Samina and the children all got scared. Samina held me and gave me water. I couldn't even speak. My body burned with fever all night. I kept waking up again and again. Every time, it felt as if the upstairs room was still watching me. The next morning, my condition was bad. I went to the doctor, got an injection, and returned home. In the evening, my brother Wasim came to visit and I told him everything. Wasim said, "You should just stop going upstairs altogether. If there is anything kept in that room, bring it down immediately." We immediately brought the machine down from upstairs. The door was closed, locked, and for many days no sound came from upstairs. But this peace was not going to last long because the real fear had not even started yet. Sometimes a small sound, a minor incident, changes a person's entire world. And that day, that moment, was just a sign for us that this house was no longer ours. Many days passed. In the beginning there was peace, nothing happened. But at night when everyone slept, my heartbeat would quicken and I would feel restless. Samina also no longer felt safe. Every small sound would make her heart pound. Every creak of a door would wake her. The silence of the kitchen, the faint rustle of the wind, even a bird sitting on the roof would feel as if someone was watching us. Such nights passed. During the day, ordinary life continued. But every moment a faint fear had stuck to us. I started taking every step cautiously. We left the upstairs room empty forever. We made a pact not to use it. But one day, that day came which forced us to leave this house completely. It was around 1 a.m. The whole house was asleep. I was in the room. Samina and the children were sleeping in the room. Suddenly, a loud sound came from outside as if a utensil had fallen and broken. My feet began to tremble on their own. I went outside. I went to the lawn. Slowly, I walked toward the kitchen. The kitchen was completely fine. Then I looked around the entire lawn, but everything was normal. Then as I reached near the table, I saw a broken glass. Then I turned around, and as soon as I turned, a woman was standing right in front of me. Her height was tall, long hair falling over her face, head bowed, hands on her knees, completely still, but her presence was so heavy that the entire lawn seemed frozen. I froze for a moment. My heartbeat stopped. My breath got stuck. My body was trembling. This was the moment when I realized that this house was truly no longer ours. I was trying to step back, but every step felt as if it was sinking in mud. I slowly moved backward, but that woman was also moving toward me. I ran to the same room where Samina and the children were sleeping. I closed the door with such force that Samina woke up. She asked, "What happened?" I said nothing because my voice would not come out. I couldn't sleep all night. In the morning, I called Wasim. We all finally decided that we would have to leave this house. Before evening, we packed our belongings. We got the children ready. We locked the house and left it forever. When we came out, the whole neighborhood was still silent. Everything seemed ordinary. But in our hearts, a hidden wave of fear was still present. We did not look back at the house. And even today, many years later, when I remember that moment, a strange cold runs through my heart. That house, that chair, that woman, and the breaking of that glass, everything feels as if it was not just a dream. They were parts of a reality that I can never forget. The days following that final incident were difficult. We moved back to my father's house temporarily. The children were confused, asking why we had left. We gave them simple answers. The house was too far, it wasn't comfortable. But they knew something was wrong. Children always know. Samina and I barely spoke about what we had seen. It was as if speaking about it would give it power. But the silence between us was heavy. We both knew that the woman on the chair was not a figment of imagination. She was real, and she had followed us. For the first few weeks, I would wake up in the middle of the night, convinced that I had heard a sound from the roof. I would lie still, listening, my heart pounding. But there was nothing. Just the ordinary sounds of my father's house, the creak of the old ceiling fan, the distant bark of a dog, the soft breathing of my sleeping children. Slowly the fear began to fade. Life returned to a new normal. We found another house, smaller, simpler, far from that lane. We didn't tell the new landlord anything. We just moved in and tried to forget. But I never forgot. The image of that woman sitting on the chair, head bowed, long hair covering her face, stayed with me. Sometimes in the corner of my eye I would see a shadow. Sometimes, late at night, I would think I heard a faint whisper, but I would shake it off, tell myself it was just stress, just my mind playing tricks. A few months later I met Faison again. He asked about the house. I told him we had moved. He didn't ask why. Perhaps he already knew. Perhaps there was a reason the rent was so low. One evening I gathered the courage to ask him, "Faison, do you know anything about that house? Did anything happen there before we moved in?" He was silent for a long moment. Then he said, "Zishanbai, I didn't want to tell you at the time. I thought maybe it was just stories. But the previous tenants left suddenly. They didn't even take all their belongings. The landlord said they had some family emergency, but I heard from the neighbors that they were scared. They said there was a woman who appeared at night. They said she would sit in the upstairs room and whisper." My blood ran cold. "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked. He looked at me with pity. "Would you have rented the house if I had told you?" I had no answer. That night I lay awake thinking. The woman on the chair, who was she? Why was she there? Was she a spirit, a jinn, or something else entirely? I would never know, and perhaps it was better that way. I decided to let it go. I couldn't change the past. I couldn't undo what we had seen, but I could protect my family. I started reading the Quran more regularly. I made sure to recite protective verses before sleeping. I never went to the roof alone at night. I avoided dark, empty rooms. Small habits, but they gave me comfort. Years passed, the memory faded. But it never fully disappeared. Sometimes, when the wind blows a certain way, or when I see a shadow in the corner of a room, I remember that night. I remember the cold door, the faint whisper, the woman on the chair. I am sharing this story now because I want others to be warned. Not every house is safe. Not every silence is peaceful, and not every presence is visible. If you ever move into a new house and feel a strange presence, do not ignore it. If you hear whispers when no one is there, do not dismiss them. And if you ever see a woman sitting on a chair in an empty room, do not approach her. Do not look into her face. Just turn around and leave. Because some doors, once opened, cannot be closed. And some houses, once entered, never truly let you go. I still think about that house sometimes. I wonder if the woman is still there, sitting on that chair, waiting for the next family to move in. I hope not. I hope she found peace. But I also know that some souls do not want peace. They want company. They want to be seen. And they will do anything to make sure they are not forgotten. I have not forgotten her. I will never forget her. If you have read this far, please be careful. Protect your home with prayers. Protect your family with faith. And never, ever underestimate the power of the unseen. This was my story. May Allah protect us all from such houses, such presences, and such fears.